Good morning, Civic Media Mornings viewers. We're going to get going in 40 seconds.
Unrigging our economy so it works for all of us, not just the billionaire class, to improving our representative government, to delivering on the promise of we the people. Tune in middays right here on your local Civic Media station from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the Tom Hartman program. Tag You're It.
Pete Schwaba.
On the next Nightlight, I'm joined by Civic Media Sports Authority, Mike Clemens, comedian Chip Chinnery, and
10 seconds.
Joining us this morning. You are listening to Civic Media Mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Good morning. Welcome to another week in paradise. To say the weekend was disappointing, hectic, tragic would all be understatements. And we are going to want to talk to you today, though. Jamie, we want people to be able to share what's going on with them. 855-75-CIVIC. That's 855-752-4842. Let me just start and indulge me, if you will, because I've been giving a lot of thought to how we were going to start the show today. And we've been going back and forth and talking. And since Saturday, and really for the last few weeks, there's so many thoughts and emotions swirling around my haunted house of a brain, and it seems like nothing makes sense anymore. But what I do know is that all of us have a responsibility to speak out when we see wrongdoing. So if you give me a second, that's what I'm going to do. These are my thoughts, mine alone. They're not meant to reflect the opinions of Jamie, anybody else on the show, Civic Media as a company. It's all me, for better or worse. So if you got an issue, you know who to talk to. The new direction of Civic Media is that we always lead with the facts. Not my facts or your facts, but the facts. Opinions and emotions are not facts, although in a situation like this, they're hard to ignore, and so we won't. We know the facts of the tragic event that occurred Saturday morning in Minneapolis. Fact, Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse at the VA, was shot and killed by ICE agents. Fact, Alex Preddy was in possession of a lawful firearm that he had a permit to carry. Fact, Minnesota is an open carry state. Fact, Alex Preddy was not undocumented. He was born in Illinois, raised in Green Bay, and a resident of the Twin Cities. Fact, a U.S. citizen was killed by agents of our government, and that should concern and terrify you. Then we got facts that are being disputed as opinion. Now, if you watch the many videos of the incident, which I have, Alex Preddy was holding his phone and recording ICE activities, which is a right that we all have under the Constitution. He went to the aid of a woman who had been pushed to the ground by ICE agents and was pushed to the ground himself by more than 6 agents. The videos appeared to show his gun being removed from its holster by an agent. There is no footage of Alex brandishing his firearm, and then he was shot multiple times in the back. Now, part of the new show here that we've been doing and the new direction of the company is to ask for and listen to opinions that differ from Jamie's and mine. Now, I'm only speaking for me, but this morning, I don't want to hear any justifications or defenses on Saturday's tragedy. I'm heartbroken, not only because a man who by all accounts was a caring, decent, and involved person was murdered by agents of our government, but heartbroken because the direction our country seems to be headed. I can't entertain any of, well, he shouldn't have had a gun nonsense from people who praised a kid who brought an AR-15 to a riot he was one state removed from. I can't listen to talking points put forth by the federal government blaming this on local leaders who have urged calm and who have repeatedly asked the administration to pull back the occupation to lower the temperature on an already dangerous situation. I'm heartbroken, but I'm also angry, and in my opinion, you should be too. I will not, and you should not, be gaslit by officials trying to tell you that what you saw with your own eyes isn't real, or that anyone who dares stand up to a potential tyrannical government is a domestic terrorist. Most sensible people know that we need to revise our immigration policies, and we agree that that hardened criminals who are undocumented need to be deported. But I will not be deceived by the fact that this so-called immigration crackdown is for the good of national security or targeting the worst of the worst when the Attorney General demands voting rolls in exchange for an ICE withdrawal, and red states with more undocumented aliens than places being occupied are not the focus of operations by masked agents. I can see, and hopefully you can see, there aren't ICE occupations in Dallas or Houston or Miami or Boise or Oklahoma City, red cities. Where's ICE focusing? Minneapolis, Chicago, Portland, Los Angeles, cities in blue states where leaders have taken a stand against the current administration, which is proving to be the ultimate sin in their eyes. So today, we do want to hear from you. We want to hear your anger, your grief, and your thoughts on what comes next. We want to share our pain with you and let you share yours with us. For me, today is a day of reflection, grieving, strategizing, and examining the facts. It's not a day to argue with people who want to spout talking points and are incapable of empathy or rational thought. That's for another day. All right, I'm taking a breath. I'm going to let Jamie talk. Thank you for indulging me. I needed to get that off my chest before we got started.
Very well said. And I have some thoughts, and mine are a little bit more personal because of my relationship with Minneapolis. Before we get to that, though, is Cindy still on the phone, Boy Aquarium? Okay, let's go to Cindy. She was at a protest in Appleton yesterday. Cindy, what do you have for us this morning?
Yes, I went down yesterday, and even with the cold, oh my God, it was so well attended. It was heartwarming to see all the people that came out yesterday. And then I was on a Zoom call last night with something called the Faith Leaders of the United States, and there was over 10,000 people on that phone call. And I also learned of something this weekend that I was kind of uplifting to me. There's a website out there called www.leavingmega.com where there are all kinds of people coming together to support each other in the face of leaving this craziness.
Thank you so much
for
the
Cindy,
thoughts this morning, Cindy.
Thanks for getting out there and resisting.
Roger over on our text line from Stevens Point this morning saying, fact, videotape does not lie. And if you want to chime in this morning, 1-855-752-4842. That's 1-855-75-CIVIC. Republicans, first-time callers, veterans. We'd love to hear from you and have your thoughts this morning as well. I mentioned that my thoughts are a little bit more personal. And I've said this several times. And just thinking about this neighborhood, you might hear me get a little choked up because where this is taking place is called the Whittier neighborhood of the Twin Cities. And this is one of my favorite places in all of the cities. It is a tapestry of people. It's a tapestry of color and locally owned businesses. There are murals painted on the side of buildings, and there are playgrounds on basically every corner. It's one of those places you can walk down the street and you don't have to think twice about who's next to you. Today, if you're watching the live stream, I'm wearing a Midwest sweatshirt. And this was a sweatshirt that I actually bought less than a year ago at a local Minnesota shop, about 3 blocks from where Alex Preddy was shot and killed after we ate at Glam Doll Donuts, which is the same shop he was standing in front of when he died. Our family had traveled to Minneapolis at Dexter's request because this is the place where he wanted to do nothing more than celebrate his 18th birthday on February 19th. It's one of his favorite places, and he wanted nothing more than to be in his favorite place when he turned 18 years old. So for me, this is personal because seeing what's happening in Minneapolis at the hands of our own government agents, it makes me sad. It makes me angry, just like Brian said. And I know that a lot of you listening this morning are likely feeling all of the same emotions. Minneapolis will always have a piece of my heart. I would love nothing more than to be there with my friends who have been protesting. I would love nothing more than to be handing out blankets and hot chocolate and water. I would love to be doing all of that. And I know Brian and our senior producer, Frank, probably had a lot of the same emotions when ICE events were taking place in Chicago a few weeks ago. But even if you don't have a personal connection to any of these cities, Minneapolis, Chicago, Portland, LA, and now Maine, where we're seeing ICE agents, this should still make all of you sad and angry as well. Because what happened to Alex Preddy, to a VA ICU nurse legally recording ICE on a sidewalk, and also to Renee Good just a couple of weeks ago, this is a mom whose glove box was shoved and overflowing with kids' toys. This is murder. And if you think that this is just a liberal viewpoint, again, my viewpoint, I want you to get to know me, and I need you to ask questions about me and what I actually believe, because I didn't actually agree with President Biden's immigration policy. I thought it was way too lenient. And I believe that more should be done to humanely overhaul our immigration system in this country. I also believe that undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes should be prosecuted with the same due process afforded to any other individual. What is happening in Minneapolis, though, goes far beyond our political beliefs and how we choose to vote, because really at the core of it, how we choose to vote is still one of the greatest constitutional rights we have in this country. What is happening right now is about humanity. This administration is intentionally stoking division, it's instilling fear, and it wants to create chaos. And if you're a Republican who voted for this administration, I don't blame you. I don't hold you personally accountable for what's happening, but I would like your perspective. Are you okay with what's happening to U.S. citizens on our streets? Because I'm not. I wouldn't be okay with this if it was a Democratic president. I am not okay with this under any other Republican president. And I can't believe, as human beings, that you would be okay with this too, because that's what we are at the core. We are still humans. And I want to believe, honestly, Brian, I want to believe that we are better than this, because I truly believe that we are better than this.
Well, yeah, it's very, again, you said it all too. It's, and when you know those places and you know the people, it hurts even more. And you're right. When it was happening here, it's, this is where I live. This is, I don't care if the person living next to me has their papers. If the person next to me, who's living next to me, is a good person, we say hello, they take care of their house, they go to work, they raise their family, I can count on them if something goes wrong, they can count on me if something goes wrong. I've never checked anybody's immigration papers, their status. When we lived in California, I'm sure there were people in my neighborhood who may or may not have had all their paperwork in line. But you know what? They were great neighbors. And your points about the immigration policy are 100% accurate. We do need to change the immigration policy. And for all the arguments of, President Obama deported more people. Yes, he did. And and President Biden deported a lot of people. And I don't have a problem with people being deported. If you can't see the difference, because be honest, if you're supporting these tactics, did we ever hear about any of these deportations? No, because we weren't being occupied by some masked group of agents who are going into people's homes, who are ripping people apart, who are murdering citizens on the street. All of the deportations that happened before, they happened. And it was, I don't know if anytime you're deporting someone, if it can be 100% humane, but there was not this sort of fear and carnage and everything else that is going along with this policy. And it is just a smokescreen. Jamie said it, and we've all said it, and it's becoming more and more obvious. It is a smokescreen to create distractions so that, in the end, we can have all sorts of unrest and not have elections in November. And that's my opinion. We welcome yours, of course, 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. As you can imagine, we've got a lot to discuss about Alex Preddy's murder at the hands of ICE. We welcome your comments and your input on the show. Let's Jamie, how about when we come back, we get to know a little bit more about Alex for the people who may have missed it. I don't know how you'd miss it over the weekend, but
yeah, I think, and then we can talk about that a little bit when we come back. We want to talk about some of the current actions that we know of as of this morning that are coming out of Minneapolis. So we will get to all of that. It is 6:19 right now. You are listening to Civic Media Mornings. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Good morning. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Less noise, more nuance.
Are you ever questioning when life will slow down? Are you ever thinking of just relaxing and enjoying the simple things? All of this is possible, even while still being in the workforce. Worthington, Minnesota is a town growing, yet it's nothing like metro life. Professional and labor jobs, a beautiful lake, bike trails, recreation, acres of public hunting, festivals, and great people. Slow down. We're just a short drive away, so come join us. Worthington, it's worth a look.
America is kept safe because the Army National Guard responds, protects, and supports our nation when it needs them most. The Army National Guard responds to disasters such as wildfires and floods. They protect us with missile defense, cybersecurity, and civilian support teams for chemical, biological, and radiological hazards. Be there for your community and your country. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
Aho, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio. On our show, we share stories from Turtle Island highlighting the people and issues shaping our communities. From protecting water to treaty rights and preserving languages and traditions, we cover it all. Hear voices like Arvina Martin of Emerge Wisconsin, Dr. Stately, Robert Lilligren, and more. Because Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Native Roots Radio, weeknights at 8 on your local Civic Media radio station.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Being blind doesn't look how others may think.
Retinitis pigmentosa aimed to overwhelm my family.
It tried to cut me down.
I know where to find support.
15 seconds until we're back.
It's 6:22 right now. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. If you're listening in Madison on WMDX or in Wausau on WXCO, we are glad that you are here. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Good morning. Another frigid Monday to get us started. -7 in Madison, and that cold throughout the state and all through the network. I'm done. I'm done with the cold. I'm done with a lot of things today. Quite frankly,
Yes.
there's just I've reached my limit. It's breaking point time. Yesterday, I actually had to after we had traded all kinds of messages between all of us, and I was working on different things for the show, I was like, I'm going to have an old-fashioned. I need something. As I'm sitting in front of the computer, I'm like,
Yes.
I need a little whiskey in my life. But,
Yes. I agree. You know, and here's the thing, too. I think if you were watching the news on Friday and you saw the Ice Out protests and 50,000 strong march through the streets of Minneapolis, right? You woke up with a little bit of hope and you were like, this is amazing. Look at these people and what they're doing. And you saw these posts on social media of restaurants turning into small hospitals in the Whittier neighborhood so that they could help people who had been tear gassed, or you saw restaurants who were literally feeding people.
Yeah.
There was hope. And then we woke up Saturday morning and all things changed. Frank from Poinet reaching out on our text line this morning saying that we said it all very well and thank you very much. So thank you
welcome,
for listening this morning, Frank. And if you want to chime into this conversation today, we would love to hear from you. 1-855-752-4842. That's 1-855-75-CIVIC. We'd love to hear your reflections. We'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you were out at any protests, because several places across the state also held protests over the weekend. So we'd love to hear from you and hear your thoughts on what happened this weekend in Minneapolis. And I think one of the things I'm hearing mostly from people in Minneapolis and people here is enough. Enough. That's what I'm hearing. Enough is enough. And I think that is a fair statement to say in the midst of what we've been seeing. But we wanted to talk more about Alex Preddy and who he was.
There's by all accounts, he was a good guy. Now, I don't know him personally, but you listen. The problem is you hear two different stories. You hear the stories from his family. You hear the stories from his neighbors. You hear the stories from coworkers, and you go, "Oh, this is a guy born in Illinois, grew up in Green Bay, was very active in sports in high school, graduates, he goes to the University of Minnesota, he gets one degree, then he is a research scientist, then he decides to become a registered nurse. This guy, and he's working at the VA. And then, so by all accounts, the kind of person you want to be neighbors with, you want to be friends with, registered gun owner, again, Minnesota open carry state. You could debate gun control all you want, but this is the law. He was following the law. His only criminal behavior, it seems, a couple of traffic tickets. I would like to meet somebody who has had no traffic tickets. So, he's good. And Jamie, there was a message on social media from a coworker. Do you want to share that and share our?
Yes, and this coworker was actually scheduled to be with us this morning, and at the last minute, she decided, because of the emotions involved, because of fear of retaliation, she was not able to join us even for just a few minutes, which we completely understand.
100%.
But here's what she had to say on social media. Alex was a nurse I worked with at the VA in the ICU. He used to tell people off when they made sexist comments to female physicians. He bought me coffee when I had a really bad day as an intern and saved my mental health more than once while there for a month. I laughed alongside him daily. He made a point to teach medical residents without judgment, but with a smile on his face and a joke. Photos from today show him as he will rest in power, a healer, a defender, and a fierce protector of humanity.
It's pretty. I don't think anybody I know will make a statement like that about me.
I was just going to say, I hope somebody is able to make a statement about me like that someday.
So again, this is a guy who, by all accounts, seems great. There was a statement from his family that they put out after they put this out after Kristi Noem went up with her usual dog and pony show, and we trotted out the same disparaging comments about everybody who dares to stand up. He is a domestic terrorist. You know what? Then look at, judging by the news footage of not only the protests in the Twin Cities, and you mentioned it before, but kudos to them for showing up in this weather. It shows that when you push people far enough, it doesn't matter how uncomfortable they are, they will go out. The protests in Chicago yesterday, across all of Wisconsin. We'll talk to somebody from one of our reporters from Green Bay in a little bit. People have had enough. And I can't imagine on a number of levels being Alex Preddy's parents. Not only did you lose your son to violence at the hands of our own government, but then you have to listen to his character be assassinated. You have to listen to him being labeled a domestic terrorist. All of these lies when everybody in the world can see what happened to your son. We'll do the statement after the break because I don't want to cut it. It's just I'm still at a loss. I know. See, and that's what's frustrating because in this job we're not supposed to be at a loss. We're supposed to have the hot takes.
Sometimes you just don't have words, and sometimes there is no hot take other than what we're seeing is wrong. What we're seeing is wrong. That's the hot take.
That's the hot take.
It's immoral. It's wrong, and it shouldn't be happening on the streets of any country, let alone what's considered to be the greatest country in the world. It should not be happening.
100% correct. 855-75-CIVIC. That's 855-752-4842. If you want to join the conversation this morning, we would love to hear from you. And we'll all make it through together. And we've got a lot more to cover, so stick with us. And
we're going to do a little fact-checking, too, this hour, Brian. We're going to do a little fact-checking because it's important. It's 6:29 right now, Civic Media Mornings. I'm Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Good morning. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
antidote to hot takes. Local news, real voices, and conversations that count. That's Madison. And that's 92.7 WMDX.
For a lot of farming operations, not just in Wisconsin, maintaining a close relationship with your financier is going to be critical this year. I'm Pam Yankee, starting you off before the opening bell on a Monday morning. Quick look at what's happening in agribusiness news. And it really won't matter what area of agriculture you're involved with. That's the advice of Trevor Althorpe. He is an ag lender with Bank First. And he said this time around, lenders want to make sure that farms are aware of their risk exposure.
It really comes down to assessing the individual situation. Do they have the knowledge, skills, and ability, the resources to continue forward? We know there are going to be downturns in the ag space. We just need to make sure we have a plan for that, work with them to develop that plan, whether it be a good projection or how does that projection then layer into a financing tool that we might be using in 26 to help them through this. Maybe it's restructuring debt. But at the end of the day, if you kind of boil it down to is there one criteria that we're looking for? Is the producer aware of their own situation and not just letting things happen to them? They need to be proactive.
Trevor Althorpe, he's an ag lender with Bank First. He said what they're also noticing is a growing gap between producers that are using some of the modern price protection tools like DRP and LGM versus those that remain exposed to market volatility. How volatile are the markets on a Monday morning? Numbers are next.
Innovation, that's BioVet.
We know you work hard every day to keep your livestock healthy and run an efficient operation because there's no such thing as a snow day. Take time this winter and consider BioVet, your trusted partner in helping you raise stronger, healthier animals and to protect your bottom line. The knowledge and support from our team can help you make the difference in keeping your livestock healthy. Call 1-800-BioVet1 or visit bio-vet.com.
Innovation, that's BioVet.
Synthetic nitrogen prices continue to fluctuate unpredictably. So Pivot Bio launched Proven G3, a weatherproof source of nitrogen with 3 modes of action. It's the lowest cost source of nitrogen on the market, helping growers replace nearly 30 pounds of nitrogen and delivering a nearly 2 bushel per acre yield increase in over 100 nationwide trials. That's performance your corn can always count on. See real results at pivotbio.com/provenit.
Corn markets quiet this morning, both March and December contracts unchanged. March soybeans are up 6 right now at 10.74. November new crop up a nickel, 10.86. The March wheat's up a penny, 5.31. July new crop currently up a penny at 5.52. On Friday in Chicago, the barrel cheese gained 1/4 cent to 1.36. 40-pound block cheese was up a half, 1.35.5. Double A butter gained 11.5 cents on Friday to close at 1.57.5 per pound. There's your market update on a Monday. I'm Pam Yankee.
From the Capitol to your kitchen table, Madison's biggest stories live right here on 92.7 WMDX.
Mostly sunny today with a high right around 6 above this afternoon. The wind west at 5 to 15 will keep the wind chill below 0 here for most of the day. Tonight, mostly cloudy. May catch a few flurries late tonight, low of 4 above. Tomorrow, sunshine with a high of 13. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 5 below.
A fresh perspective on the great outdoors.
What's up, everybody? This is Raised in the Woods with me, Joel Clayfish. This show is about everything you can do in the waters, in the woods, in the outdoors of the great Midwest. And of course, we have a cooking segment every week. This is Raised in the Woods.
Raised in the Woods with Joel Clayfish and Ellie Lawton. Find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
John Peterson and Gordy Young.
I do the program today with my AI glasses on. Are there Pyrex plates that you can use in the microwave?
Please stand by. John's glasses are thinking.
No,
oh,
you got rid of it.
I messed it up.
You said something and then it said that's
so
right.
We're all supposed to be quiet, huh? So I don't interfere with your glasses.
No, I don't even need you anymore.
Oh, really? Okay.
I can have a conversation with my glasses.
That's where you're going to go? Okay.
Tune in to the John and Gordy Show, weekdays from 2 to 5.
15 seconds until we're back.
so much for joining us on the Civic Media Radio Network. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan, and we want to hear from you this morning. It was a rough weekend in Minneapolis, and that has trickled down to everybody in this country has a thought on what happened, the tragic murder of Alex Preddy at the hands of ICE on the streets of Minneapolis. It's unbelievable. It is shocking, and it should be angering to everybody with any sense in their dome. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842 is how you get a hold of us, how you share your thoughts. That's the phone line. That's the text line. I don't understand the magic of how both of them work in conjunction, but they do. So that's it. We're going to do, Jamie has been putting together, because we are all about facts. Emotion comes into conversations, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a horrific event like Saturdays or something silly like French fries. Emotions are always going to come into conversations, but facts are the basis. But before we get to those facts, we had mentioned the two stories you're hearing about Alex Preddy. Thankfully, the one about him being a decent, hardworking, caring young man are far outweighing the usual tripe that's being served up by Kristi Noem. This was a statement from his family after Kristi Noem had disparaged him and called him, her usual, the domestic terrorist. From Michael and Susan Preddy, we are heartbroken, but also very angry. Alex was a kind-hearted soul who cared deeply for his family and friends, and also the American veterans who he cared for as an ICU nurse at Minneapolis VA Hospital. Alex wanted to make a difference in this world. Unfortunately, he will not be with us to see his impact. I do not throw around the hero term lightly. However, his last thought and act was to protect a woman. The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked by Trump's murdering and cowardly ICE thugs. He has his phone in his right hand, and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman ICE just pushed down, all while being pepper sprayed. Please get the truth out about our son. He was a good man. Thank you. And that's the statement from Michael and Susan Preddy, Alex's parents.
And we're going to try to do just that. We're going to try to get the word out about what a good man he was. We've got some claims that have been made by this current administration. We've got some audio, and we're going to do a little fact-checking this morning. Okay?
Sounds good to me.
So, claim number one. Preddy approached agents with intent to carry out mass violence. This is what Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino said. He said agents were conducting a targeted operation around 9:05 a.m., stated that Preddy approached the agents while armed with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Here's what we do know according to the video, okay? It actually confirms that Alex Preddy was present near the federal operation in Minneapolis. It does not show him pointing a firearm, attempting to fire a weapon, or advancing on agents with a gun raised. He is seen holding a cell phone, which is legal to do, and appearing to record. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino claimed that Preddy's action suggested, quote, he wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement, a motive that was then repeated by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Cut number 3.
During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots.
Yeah, that's not exactly what happened.
Defensive shots to a man who is on his stomach on the ground, and the defensive shots go into his back.
Right.
Again, if it wasn't so horrific, it would be laughable, the fact that the lies they try to perpetrate on us, and they float them out with no effort at all. It's like they're breathing. If they open their mouth, it's lies.
Yes. Now, under Minnesota law, let's be clear here, and you alluded to this earlier in the show, carrying a handgun in public is legal as long as you have a permit, and Preddy was reported to be a lawful gun owner. Yes.
Local law enforcement backed that up. This is fact. They said he was licensed to carry that gun. He owned the gun legally. Everything was above board with him. And again, it's hilarious. The Second Amendment folks now are like, well, why do you have a gun? I don't know, because you voted to let him have a gun.
Well, and it's funny that even members of the NRA this weekend basically came out and said what they're seeing in this is above the is beyond the pale of what even the NRA is comfortable with. So this tells you we've maybe hit a new Rubicon when that organization is advocating for something different. Now, here's another claim that this is claim number 2. They are saying that Preddy had no ID on him. Noam actually said this during her remarks, saying that he had no ID that they could find on him. Now, here's what we do know. This is the facts. None of the multiple videos reviewed show any of the federal agents actually asking Alex Preddy for identification during the encounter. Footage from multiple angles actually depicts a pretty rapid escalation where agents are shoving civilians, they're spraying Preddy with a chemical irritant, and then there's that physical struggle that we've all seen play out. There's no visible attempt in any of the videos to question Preddy or request his ID, and federal authorities have not explained how or when they determined that he lacked identification. Claim number 4. This is the one that gets me. Medics immediately delivered aid, according to Bovino. Let's go to cut number 5, please.
Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene.
Now, Noam also repeated this assertion later in the day. Here's what we do know. These are the facts. Video from the scene shows Alex Preddy motionless on the ground as federal agents move back and the situation continues to unfold. Authorities have not released any body-worn camera footage, dispatch logs, or detailed timelines showing when medical aid began after the shooting. There were nearby pedestrians who ran to the scene after hearing gunshots and asked ICE agents if they could assess Preddy. Agents initially required the doctor to show a medical license. Somebody at least had to show ID. The pediatrician said no agents were observed performing CPR or checking for a pulse on Preddy before they were initially blocked. After pressing again, an agent allowed this pediatrician to approach. The doctor reported no detectable pulse and began chest compressions until emergency personnel arrived.
And
Those are the facts.
And that doctor has filed an affidavit, so it is there. It's the same. If we go back to the Good case where a doctor tried to render aid and initially was and in that case was refused altogether. In this case, the doctor just started. He's not going to deal with any of that.
Another claim that this administration has made. This one's interesting. Claim number 4. Protesters violently assaulted officers, including biting off an agent's finger. Noam described the aftermath as a violent riot and made a specific allegation. Cut number 6, please.
About hundreds of protesters then showed up at the scene. They began to obstruct and to assault law enforcement officers. We saw objects being thrown at them, including ice and other objects, and a rampant assault began, and even an HSI officer agent's finger was bitten off.
Wow.
All right, so here's what we do know, Brian, as far as the
wait
facts.
a minute. I don't know. Maybe we stick with the fallacy on this one. I like that somebody bit off somebody's finger. I like those kind of protesters. Get a little chomp in.
Wow.
All right, what is listen, just knowing who said it, I know it's false, but you have the facts. Back it up.
I do.
Let's hear it.
So federal officials shared images on social media of Homeland Security agent's bloodied finger, allegedly injured during the protests. Shortly after the shooting of Alex Preddy, protests did gather in Minneapolis, chanting and banging on trash cans and other objects. Demonstrators dragged garbage dumpsters into the street and other locations to block traffic as part of their protest. At least one dumpster was reportedly set on fire during the demonstrations. Minneapolis State Patrol officers arrested at least 2 people who crossed police tape during the unrest. Law enforcement deployed tear gas and flashbang devices as officers pushed crowds back. No evidence, though, of anybody's finger ever getting bitten off in the altercations. Big shock.
Wow. Frank, or Len rather, jumps in on the text line, and you can too, 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Len says he's in Madison. Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? Watch the videos, read the analysis of them, most importantly, from multiple sources, which to Len, that's a wonderful point, because if you look, all of a sudden, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, the New York Times, all these papers that have been kind of kowtowing a little bit to the administration are all independently analyzing these videos and all saying the exact same thing. So Kristi Noem can blather on all she wants. Right. The American people know, and that's why people are taking to the street. We have, and you said it, and Tim Walz said it, we've had enough.
Yeah,
and this is where it is. Now that Jamie, that had to be the final erroneous claim that they made.
Here we go.
Wait, what? There's more?
There were plenty more. I had to parse through the claims, but we're going to end with this one. Okay. This is claim number 5. There are plenty more. Do some reading. I encourage you to do a little research on this. Claim number 5, state and city leaders encouraged violence and lawlessness. Noem accused Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey of encouraging attacks on law enforcement and protecting criminals. This is cut number 7, please.
Our law enforcement are doing everything that they can to protect the public. We're praying for this deceased loved one's family and friends, but we also recognize that the Minnesota governor and the Minneapolis mayor need to take a long, hard look in the mirror.
So here's what we do know. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has publicly criticized the federal immigration enforcement operation in Minneapolis. He's called for it to end after the fatal shooting of not only Renee Good, but now Alex Preddy. He described the situation as dangerous. He urged federal agents to pull out of the state. He's even urged Minnesotans to remain peaceful and has not encouraged violence in any of his statements. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey also criticized the federal presence, questioning the continuation of the operation and its impact on public safety. This is cut 8, please.
Most of the protests that we've seen have remained peaceful. Let's keep it that way. Let's not counter Donald Trump's chaos with our own version of chaos here. I understand that people are angry.
It doesn't sound like he's asking them to go out and be angry.
No,
in fact, he says be peaceful.
And well, that doesn't matter, Jamie. His words are not you didn't hear that correctly. If you listened closely, yes, he was saying, listen, people of Minneapolis, let's destroy our own city to play right into the hands of this administration's plot. And of course, Mayor Frey and Governor Walz are going to urge peace. It's their city. It's their state. They don't want their citizens or their property or anything destroyed. But that doesn't matter because we're going to stick, and by we, I mean this administration, we're going to stick with our talking points. We are going to hope that there are enough people that will believe our blather and just take our word for it, sight unseen. Or even if they do watch it, they will believe what we tell them rather than what they see, which is something that I just can't fathom. When we come back, we're going to talk to Connie Feldman. She's a Civic Media reporter from Green Bay. We'll talk about what was going on there yesterday and what's going on there still today. We're going to hear more from Alex Preddy in the next hour, too. There's a lot coming up, so don't go away. And always, you can jump in 855-752-4842.
It's 6:48. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Your community right to your phone through the Civic Media app.
All right. It looks like we have got Connie. Let me get over.
I love that music leaving that segment.
That was very good, guys.
We want to bring.
Whoop. Yes, thank
Easy.
you. Let's bring this down. It looks like.
Well.
Yeah, looks like they're getting set up over there still.
Okay.
Yeah. I will bring them when it looks like they're all clear there.
Do we want to go back into the segment and just read a couple of these texts that have come in and then we can go to Connie?
Yeah, if you want. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
because our listeners are saying everything that we don't have to.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I'm actually a little surprised there's not more calls.
It's early.
That's true. That's true.
We do still have Mark on the line, by the way,
Yeah.
if you would like to take his
Do
call.
we want to go to him
where
before
is
Connie
Mark?
quickly? He's on the phone call.
Yeah, we might as well.
Okay.
Do it. Yeah, we could do them quick.
Do you want to, would you guys tell him, though, he's going to need to be brief? Thank you. I've learned that most of our listeners actually get more active, like right around 8:30, 9 o'clock.
That doesn't do us any good.
It really doesn't.
Come on, progressives, get up earlier.
Right?
Well, progressives, liberals, whoever, get up earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
People who care about this country.
We've got 1 minute till we're back here. Looks like Connie is still working on getting set up.
No worries.
Make me a little nervous. Oh, here we go.
She's good.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay. I'm going to try this out right now. Hey there, Connie. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good morning, Connie.
Good. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
We're going to take a quick phone call and read a couple text messages, and then we'll come to you, and we'll be out in plenty of time for you to be ready for 7 a.m.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I still have WGBW through my headphones, so I'm just hearing you through my laptop here.
Okay, it sounds fine.
Okay.
We'll be back in 15 seconds. I'm going to remove you from the stage, and then we'll put you on when we're ready for you, Connie.
Doesn't sound great.
It's 6:52 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you are listening in Eau Claire on 93.5 The Tap or in La Crosse on WLCX, maybe you're in Richland Center on WRCE. We are glad that you're along for this very important conversation this morning. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan, and if you want to get involved in the conversation, 855-75-CIVIC. That's 855-752-4842. Mark's been hanging on. He's in Prairie du Sac. Hi, Mark.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I can't help but compare some of this that's going on now to what happened in the occupied countries in Nazi Germany with the troopers breaking in and finding people that were hiding in people's attics. And because Anne Frank, that's where she was. All those people that were hiding throughout Europe, that at one point in time, and then the Gestapo and all that were going around looking for them to deport them to detention camps so they could eliminate them, and that the quotas that they have for getting people out of this country. So many of these people, from what I've heard, actually are in the legal process. But the Trump administration decided, we don't want those people here, so we're going to cancel their statuses and ship them out. And just like people have come here, that completely illegally. And the Biden administration, as the Obama administration before, was actually deporting people, but without these scenes of violence, without this violence going on. Yep. And this is the Trump administration trying to incite violence. And how long before they declare giving out? I heard you giving out blankets and hot chocolate. How long before they declare that a terrorist act?
Probably.
Like giving out water to people in the voting lines.
Thank you so much.
Mark, thanks for the call.
Yeah. I mean, and those are legitimate questions. I mean, we've already seen some of these this administration try to, oddly enough, you bring up blankets and hot chocolate, but you've seen them make sure that we can't make voters comfortable waiting in line, right? And so, we're just one step potentially away from saying that this is something you can't do for those out protesting. Michael over on our text line chiming in as well. He says, it seems that Kristi Noem is losing her fire and repeating her lies. She just sounds like she is dialing it in. Frank from Poynette says, these people are thugs. They are the terrorists and provoking it all. If you want to chime in this morning, 1-855-752-4842, 1-855-75-CIVIC. I think we got to bring Connie in here.
Yeah, we've had protest. We were hearing all about the protests, obviously, in Minneapolis, but there were many, many protests around the country and in Wisconsin. Alex Preddy, as we've learned, grew up in Green Bay, went to high school there, was involved in all sorts of things, and a huge protest in Green Bay yesterday. Connie Fellman is with us. She's Civic Media's reporter at WGBW in Green Bay. Good morning, Connie. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
So give us a little update on what happened yesterday, because it was not a balmy day to be out protesting in Green Bay.
No, still sub-zero temperatures here. Wind chills were between 20 and 30 below, but that didn't stop thousands of people from actually flooding the streets of downtown Green Bay. Alex was a hometown boy, went to Preble High School here in Green Bay, and people were carrying signs, chanting, just to have their voice heard. A lot of Preble pride going on here in Green Bay.
And what were you hearing, Connie, from some of the organizers and some of the who want more immigration enforcement in Minneapolis? Did they have any messages during the protest yesterday?
They were, how do I say this on the radio? They had some colorful comments against immigration enforcement. I read a sign that said, Green Bay will tolerate this cold. We won't tolerate ice. So they had some strong messages against the type of immigration enforcement going on in Minneapolis. I want to make sure that something like that doesn't happen here to Green Bay.
Connie Fellman, our guest, Civic Media's reporter at WGBW in Green Bay. Connie, you mentioned Alex going to Preble High School. What we've talked about the things we saw in the press, but what were you hearing from people who knew him when he was younger, or there was a statement read from one of his former teachers? There was a lot to say about him.
Yeah, he was very well loved here in Green Bay, involved in a lot of activities at Preble High School. Is pretty well known around this area for its music program. He was also involved in sports. He ran track and played baseball, but he was a very talented singer. He was in musicals and show choir there at Preble. But earlier than that, I spoke to a man who was with Alex in the Green Bay Boys Choir, which is a young people's choir up to age 15. And what he was saying is Alex is just, he remembers him being a tremendously caring person, very kind, always wanting to help others, help the little kids who were in that choir. It's pretty prestigious choir here in Green Bay. What he was telling me is it doesn't surprise him, knowing Alex from that young, that he ended up being a nurse, an ICU nurse, and caring for others. And he was very angry that what he felt, what Alex was doing, the type of person he was to help other people out, is what ultimately he said ended his life.
We only have just a few seconds here left, Connie. But are you hearing of any other events that might be taking place in the Green Bay area over the next few days?
I would, honestly, I would have to round up things that are going on here. Sure. But I would hate to misinform people, so I can't say for
Absolutely. Sure. We appreciate that.
And we appreciate your time this morning, Connie. Thank you very much. I'm sure it will not be the last time Green Bay residents speak out against what's going on up there.
I'm sure you'll be hearing from us. Thank you guys for having me.
Connie Fellman is Civic Media's reporter at WGBW in Green Bay. She has to go and get her 7 o'clock news report ready. And we've got to start wrapping things up for this hour. But when we come back, we have a very interesting interview with the executive director of Law Enforcement Action Partnership. This was recorded prior to this weekend. We recorded it at the end of last week when the big talk was about ICE and their warrants. We'll get to that. We'll get to more of your texts and calls at 855-752-4842. A lot more to cover on this tragic event.
There is. It is 6:59 right now. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings. I'm Jamie Martinson. Brian Noonan also joining me on the Civic Media Radio Network.
All right. You know what? Looks like she's done. I'm not going to bring her back.
No.
Thank you, Connie.
Yeah, I don't.
Preston, more than 800,000 power customers have no lights and no heat today as the temperature for many who made it through Sunday's big snow and ice storm are plummeting. ABC's Lana Moise has a rundown.
The massive storm that stretched from New Mexico to New England, impacting nearly 200 million Americans, unleashing heavy snow and freezing rain. Parts of New England seeing snowfall rates of up to 2 inches per hour, causing low visibility. More than 12,000 flights were canceled nationwide Sunday. Cancellations and delays will linger through this week.
The storm causing at least 14 deaths so far, including a woman in Massachusetts who was run over by a snowplow. Business leaders are speaking out about the federal raids in Minnesota. The CEOs of some Minnesota companies, including United Health, 3M, Target, the Mayo Clinic, signing a letter demanding an immediate de-escalation of tensions following a second ICE-involved fatal shooting of a protester. Alex Preddy this weekend. This is ABC News.
Parallel parking in Madison? Impossible. Finding real conversation on the radio? Probable. With 92.7 WMDX.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. The candidates for Wisconsin governor have very differing views on the role of ICE. Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany and Democratic Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez spoke to WISN's Upfront. Rodriguez wants to ban ICE agents from performing civil detentions in places like churches, schools, and courthouses. She wants Wisconsinites to peacefully protest ICE's action in Wisconsin, but not to travel in Minnesota to join protests there. Tiffany says states like Wisconsin and Minnesota need to stop preventing ICE from doing its job. Tiffany says he does not support the Trump administration's threats to use the Insurrection Act in Minnesota, but says Governor Tim Walz should step aside and stop obstructing federal agents. And state lawmakers are inching closer to bills to mitigate PFAS chemicals across Wisconsin. 2 bills got hearings at the state capitol last week. Isabella Nieto breaks them down.
One would exempt fire departments, airports, and municipalities from cleaning up PFAS under Wisconsin's spills law. And under one amendment to the bill, the DNR would get more than $132 million to mitigate PFAS in wildlife and provide community cleanup grants, along with a separate fund for mitigating PFAS directly at airports. A separate bill would give grants to municipalities for PFAS testing in drinking water, landfills, and wastewater systems. Both still need to make it out of committee, but in a press release, the governor said he was optimistic about bipartisan negotiations to release PFAS funds that were approved in the budget process more than 2 years ago.
Up in Eau Claire, city leaders have now decided to engage a law firm to try to recoup some costs from PFAS contamination. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
The Badgers come up short. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Men's college basketball. The Badgers losing at home to the USC Trojans 73-71. Nick Boyd led with 29 points and was asked what happened down the stretch.
I just feel like, we took our foot off the gas, shots wasn't falling, all around for us today. And, we had that lead, toughness plays, rebounds, offensive rebounds, and then maybe got a little bit comfortable. Something, we spoke about, and we're just looking forward to the next game.
The loss snapped a 5-game winning streak for Wisconsin. The Badgers women's team with a loss at Minnesota 88-53. NBA. The Bucks game in Milwaukee last night canceled. That's because the Dallas Mavericks team plane was grounded due to the winter storm in Texas. The game tentatively rescheduled for February 19th. NFL. The Packers deciding to go with Jonathan Gannon as their next defensive coordinator. 43 years old, head coach of the Arizona Cardinals the past 3 years. Helped the Eagles get to a Super Bowl. With Sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Your neighbors are talking. Leaders are deciding. Madison's story unfolds daily on 92.7 WMDX.
Mostly sunny today with a high right around 6 above this afternoon. The wind west at 5 to 15 will keep the wind chill below 0 here for most of the day. Tonight, mostly cloudy. May catch a few flurries late tonight, low of 4 above. Tomorrow, sunshine with a high of 13. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 5 below.
Hey there, Wisconsin. Tom Hartman here. Democracy is not a spectator sport, so join me each and every weekday right here on Civic Media for the Tom Hartman program from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. covering the news of the day and sharing ways for you to get off the sidelines and get active in your community, because change starts with you. Get involved and tune in to the Thom Hartmann program Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here on your local Civic Media radio station.
Where working people come to talk. It's The Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Join me for an honest approach to the issues American working families care about. No talking points, no focus groups. Get ready for a heavy dose of democracy, fairness, grit, and no apologies. It's current affairs from a working class labor perspective. Facts are center, science is real, and everyone gets a seat at the table. The Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Pete Schwaba.
On the next Nightlight, I'm joined by Civic Media Sports Authority, Mike Clemens, comedian Chip.
15 seconds.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate it. We hope your Monday is going well so far. You are listening to Civic Media Mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Good morning. Thanks for being here. We wanted to talk to our next guest because we've been hearing since Minneapolis and back in Los Angeles and in Chicago, when ICE and federal law enforcement comes into a city, there have been clashes, may be too strong a word, but there has been a lack of communication or a lack of cooperation, allegedly, between local law enforcement and the federal law enforcement agents that are coming in. Stephen Miller last week put out a statement on his social media saying, quote, "Only federal officers are upholding the law. Local and state police have been ordered to stand down and surrender," end quote. And that statement caused us to worry, so we wanted to get some expert opinion on this. We reached out to Lieutenant Diane Goldstein. She's retired from the Redondo Beach Police Department and now is the Executive Director for Law Enforcement Action Partnership. Diane, thanks for being here. We appreciate your time. Let's start with this quote from Stephen Miller. Is that even possible for federal officers to completely shut out local law enforcement? One, and two, as a former local law enforcement officer, what did that statement make you feel?
So there's a couple things. First, Stephen Miller has never been a federal police officer, federal agent, has no background in policing, and his statement should just be broadly discounted. I'm not even going to answer that, in the sense of, here's the bottom line. Is 4 years I worked with federal agents, DEA, ATF, back when ICE was called INS, and actually were professionals, is the best way of describing it. And one of the things that has always occurred has been cooperation, or the federal government basically coming into a city and saying, hey, we're executing a search warrant, so neighbors would understand, so if we get calls for service. There has always been broad cooperation between the feds and local and state law enforcement in many aspects. There are times where there have been issues, right? And I think about when we were working, or when my team was working narcotics, and one of the things that occurred post 9/11 was the fusion centers that popped up across the country to provide what's called deconfliction. So everybody would basically call in and say, hey, we're executing a search warrant here. And we would find out, oh, there's a federal investigation. And then we would connect with other law enforcement to ensure that we weren't pointing guns at undercover officers, between feds and state or local. So Stephen Miller should be broadly discounted, because what is currently going on in Minnesota in particular is just absolutely shocks the conscious. When you have a Brooklyn Park police chief press conference that recently occurred, where you are having police officers of color who are being boxed in unsafe tactics, having guns pointed at them, and then having their cameras knocked out of their hands, and then no apologies, just moving on, shows you very much what Stephen Miller and Department of Homeland Security think about local and state officers. So we can move on from there.
That's perfect.
It's unconstitutional what they're doing.
Absolutely. So we want to move into another story because I think you tied the bow on that one nicely and put an end to the Stephen Miller conversation. There was a story that came out in the AP not too long ago about warrants, and what's happening with the ICE agents is the fact that they're going to the door. There was a whistleblower who came out and said they're basically using administrative warrants, which do not give them the same authority to basically ramrod doors in. So let's start with that. We're going to get into that just a little bit, and we'll get into some details. But first of all, explain to us the difference, if you will, for people who don't understand, the different levels of warrants that apply in these situations.
So if you're a state or a local law enforcement agent, we don't have administrative warrants when we go out into the field to execute a law enforcement action. I have had dozens and dozens and dozens of judicial warrants signed and approved by a judge that allows us to go into people's houses in full compliance of the law and the Constitution based on probable cause, whether it's a murder or a theft or a drug investigation. ICE has administrative warrants that their own supervisors can issue that do not allow them to enter people's residence. They must have a judicial warrant as well. And so the issue, which is really interesting with this whistleblower, and I am absolutely not shocked that this is going on, is that they are training newer ICE officers now who don't have the law enforcement experience to be able to dissent and say, you're endangering people. Right. And then again, looking at, was it Mr. Thao, who was from Laos, who had been here for years? They go in, they execute a warrant without any judicial approval. They drag the victim out of the house. They detain him for an hour by driving him around until they can identify that he's a U.S. citizen who didn't even look like the sexual offenders that they were trying to allegedly capture. And so, it is right now, Department of Homeland Security is operating outside of any normal constitutional guardrails. And I think what's made worse by this whistleblower allegation is that there are two policies being circulated. There's the official policy that basically says you need to have all these guardrails if you're going to enter someone's house, that it's a judicially signed warrant for a particular person. And then there's the unofficial policy that they just give people a memo to read that authorize them to kick the door and drag people out. And then they hide that policy. And so we know that according to the whistleblower, that at least one DHS instructor resigned over this issue. And I would hope that more people resign, because what they are going to do is eventually, I think, the whole entire Department of Homeland Security services is going to be looked at from a perspective of what went wrong, right? It may not happen this year, it may not happen next year, but eventually a new administration is going to come in and really look at how can we prevent American civil liberties or anyone who's in our country, because the Constitution applies to you whether or not you are here legally or not.
That's a good point. Our guest is Lieutenant Diane Goldstein. She's retired from the Redondo Beach Police Department. She is now the Executive Director of Law Enforcement Action Partnership. So, Diane, you read the whole memo. You've told us the gist. Was there anything else in that memo that jumped out and shocked you? Not that the main point of that there's two different rules. That's shocking enough. But was there anything else in there that gave you pause?
I think that was the most shocking, that there is a deliberate intent to hide illegal behavior from not just the troops, but from Americans. And remember, the Supreme Court has long held, this is from the memo, absent exigent circumstances, is when I think about kicking doors, is you only kick door if someone's life is in danger as a local law enforcement officer, that there's got to be something very specific that says, oh my gosh, we got to get into that house right now to save someone's life. The destruction of evidence is not necessarily that, right? And so the Fourth Amendment, all people, all Americans, anyone who's living in our country needs to understand that the Fourth Amendment prohibits the government's non-consensual entry into a person's home without a judicial warrant. And so everyone has the right to ask, I want to see the warrant. Every warrant we executed, we had a copy that was signed by a judge and was left with very specific, paragraphs that said, this is what we're looking for. And then we would have to go file that at the court afterwards with the whole list of evidence of what we took from that house.
Diane, as I'm listening to you talk, I also have to think, we have just a couple minutes here. If officers are trained one way, but are being told to do something different in a memo, doesn't that create a lot of liability and confusion, though, for the people on the ground as well? I mean, this seems like it could be a very dangerous situation for the people in the home, as well as the officers, the ICE agents, anybody involved.
The level of danger that they are creating for their own officers, as seen by the Renee Good death, right? Very preventable death. And the community writ large is the most troublesome thing for me. They, at this point, are not operating with the reverence of life that they should. Law enforcement role is to use the least amount of force in any given situation, and you only escalate as needed, as necessary. And the tactics by CBP and DHS currently are absolutely atrocious. I saw a picture yesterday of the little 5-year-old kindergartner.
Yeah.
Our society, America, is being judged harshly. And we should, given what we're doing to those that are vulnerable in our community, to use a child in that fashion is, I don't know.
It's barbaric to use a kid as bait. That's horrible. We've got about a minute left, Diane, but I wanted to ask, because you talked about de-escalation and only using force when absolutely necessary. And one of the big buzzwords we hear anytime there is an ICE-involved incident is fearing for their life. As a former law enforcement officer, what is the criterion for I was in fear for my life?
I've had guns pointed at me where I haven't killed someone, where I perfectly could have used deadly force and didn't. I've also been in an officer-involved shooting because someone tried to stab me. So it really is kind of complex because it's based on the totality of the circumstances. But let me say that ICE is using the same language in every bad shooting. They were boxed in, and what we know now, because there's videos out there, they're brake checking people, deliberately trying to cause accidents, and then using that as an excuse that they were rammed. So it is, all the tactics right now are absolutely out of control. And the last thing is, I think about another incident that just occurred where they stole a teenager's phone and put it into one of those, cell
the bags.
boxes, vending boxes. That's theft. If that was a normal, legit police agency, that agent would have been taken out of the field, gun removed, internal affairs investigation, and likely terminated.
Diane, we're going to have to leave it right there. You are listening to Civic Media Mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Yeah, that was an interview that we recorded last week with Lieutenant Diane Goldstein. She's retired. She's now the Executive Director of Law Enforcement Action Partnership. That was when we hoped that the worst thing that was happening was that ICE was operating under two different sets of rules for their warrants. But unfortunately, we know that that is no longer the case. When we come back, we will hear Alex Paredes, in his own words, at the VA and so much more. Right now, you are listening to Civic Media Mornings, and this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Conversations are free range and organic.
Herbal Aspect has landed. That's right, Madison's go-to cannabis destination now has a brand new location in Sun Prairie.
Wait, 4 locations? That's a high level of convenience.
With 3 Madison locations and now Sun Prairie, a great cannabis experience is always close by. Our expert staff is here to help, whether you walk in, call, or order online. Mention Radio 420 and get a special discount. So stop by Herbal Aspect in Sun Prairie, because great cannabis isn't just a pipe dream.
Nice. I'm rolling over now.
Herbal Aspect.
Hey, Gordy, we know affordability is a problem these days. Rent, healthcare, childcare, the cost of everything is going up.
That's right, John. Even if you're doing okay, most of us know someone who's struggling to make ends meet. Many of our neighbors who work hard still find it difficult to pay all the bills and pay for food.
Well, that's where River Food Pantry steps up to meet the growing need. Last year, the River served more than 21,000 people in Dane County, a new record.
And the River Food Pantry's new, much-needed, bigger building on Packers Avenue in Madison is ready to open, so let's pack the pantry on Packers Avenue.
Drop donations at the drive-through event Monday, January 26th from 10 till 4 at 3301 Packers Avenue, or check the River's website for downtown drop-off times.
Donate money, food, or host your own food drive. Check out riverfoodpantry.org.
Bring your food or cash donations to 3301 Packers Avenue on Monday, January 26th from 10 till 4, or check the River's website for downtown drop-off times. riverfoodpantry.org. Pack the pantry.
Reading aloud to children sharpens their listening skills, expands their vocabularies, and nurtures a lifelong love of reading. That's why Reading is Fundamental, the nation's leading children's literacy nonprofit, offers free monthly read-alouds by popular authors through its Rally to Read program. Visit rallytoread.org to watch the read-alouds and discover exciting reading activities for school and home. Visit rallytoread.org today.
A little less than 15 seconds till we're back here.
It's 7:22 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Civic Media Radio Network. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings. My name is Jamie Martinson.
Hey, good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. Lot to still cover. We always want to hear from you. We are, of course, talking about Alex Preddy's murder at the hands of ICE agents on Saturday in Minneapolis. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842 is the number. You can call us, you can text us, you can get involved in the program. Jamie, earlier, pardon me, we were talking about how we wanted people to get to know more about Alex, and one of the things that came out, of course, is what Alex Preddy did for a living. He was an ICU nurse at the VA hospital in Minneapolis. So Mac Randolph is a guy whose father was in the ICU at the VA hospital and passed away. And he had taken footage of Alex reading what they call the final salute. After a veteran passes away, they cover him in a flag and they bring him out. And I don't know, I thought this was a good way to kind of give you another glimpse into what this guy does. And probably more jaded people will say, well, that's his job. Isn't that what he's supposed to do? Yeah, I'd listen to the audio, but then go search out the video. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of those moments where, yes, it might be part of the job. It might be part of what he does. But at the same time, when you watch the video, when you listen to it, which we're going to in just a moment, you can tell he truly cares about the people that who he is caring for, right?
Yeah.
And you know, when Connie Fellman, our reporter from Green Bay, joined, she said one of the things that she's heard from people in the Green Bay area where Alex Preddy went to school is that there was no surprise that he became a nurse. Right? Because of how caring he was towards people. And you can hear that and you can see that when you watch this particular video. So let's play cut 2.
Terrence Lee Randolph, March 30th, 1947, December 10th, 2024. Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it. May we never forget and always remember our brothers and sisters who have served so that we may enjoy the gift of freedom. So in this moment, we remember and give thanks for their dedication and selfless service to our nation in the cause of our freedom. In this solemn hour, we render them our honor and our gratitude.
And it was a moving scene. If you get to see the video, there are a lot of people standing in the hallway, quietly watching, and this is done in the hallway. They wheel Mac Randolph's father out of the room. Now, this is what you heard the date. That was in 2024. Now, Mac Randolph had said in his statement when he released this on Facebook that he had not meant to ever make that tape public. That was just for he and his family. But after he saw the news and saw that Alex Preddy had been murdered, he felt moved to release it. And I'm glad he did. It had to be tough.
Agreed. Do you know what I think is most, when you listen to the words that Preddy was saying about a veteran, talking about sacrifice, about giving up the life, do you find that a little ironic based on what we know, what happened this weekend and we saw with our own eyes happen this weekend? There's irony in the statement that he was reading to honor this veteran, right? And I understand that Alex Preddy was not a veteran, but what he did this weekend was a sacrifice. It was a sacrifice of his own life. It was because he was trying to help another human being. He literally sacrificed and said himself and said the same words out loud about another human being. And I find that to be ironic. That was not lost on me when I watched that video based on what I saw play out on the streets of Minneapolis.
No, your point's very well taken. He did die helping somebody else, which is it. Again, we didn't know Alex Preddy personally, but from all accounts, that's the kind of person he was. From the video, you see that woman had been pushed down. He jumped in to try to help her up. He was doing nothing wrong. This is why, Renee Good was doing nothing wrong.
No,
there were these are U.S. citizens who are being taken from us by our own government for doing nothing, and then we're being told that we didn't see it. You're wrong. You don't understand what's happening here. Well, I do understand what's happening here, and I think most of us understand what's happening here.
One of my biggest pet peeves in this world is hypocrisy. It literally is. And
well, then you must be going nuts.
I really, truly am, because it is a pet peeve. I don't like it when I see it in just everyday instances. I don't like it when it comes to religion. I don't like it when it comes to our politics. I don't like hypocrisy. And so you're right. I am going nuts because I am being told one thing and told to believe one thing while I'm sitting and watching a complete opposite thing play out. That is the complete definition of hypocrisy. Yes. And it is really, really hard for me to fathom those things and justify them in my mind. And not to mention the fact that one of the other things I think about, Brian, is how do the people in this administration, because they know the truth, they know what's actually happening. How do you go about your daily life justifying lying to that degree to the American people and telling us that, oh, you didn't actually see that? That's not what's happening. They know that's what's happening. They know this is what we're seeing. And they're telling us something completely opposite. I personally, this is just me speaking, me personally, I could not live with myself in that situation to tell those types of blatant lies.
That's because you have an ethical core. And it appeared... Again, this is my judgment, my opinion. I don't think you could do that job unless you are, one, really, really stupid and believe all that nonsense, or two, you have absolutely no morals, no ethics, no empathy, and you are driven to achieve your goals no matter how twisted, how evil they are, and no matter who it hurts and at what cost to this country.
I guess that's what I think. I guess that's why I'll just stay a radio host with an opinion or two, because that's definitely not for me. It is 7:29 right now. You are listening to Civic Media Mornings. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. More of your texts and calls after this on the Civic Media Radio Network.
No assembly required. Local news, real voices, and conversations that count. That's Madison. And that's 92.7 WMDX.
This is the time of the year when a lot of Wisconsin farmers are planning for production. I'm Pam Yankee. Now, from the Rural Mutual Insurance Farm News Desk, here's what's happening on a Monday. But there's one group of farmers in Wisconsin that's got just a little bit different directive when it comes to the growing season of 2026. Hainu Smith is the executive director of the newly operational Department of Agriculture for the Ho-Chunk Nation. She says that right now they're planning for productivity as well, but it's all about community.
We're not driven by yield, and we're not driven by profit margins. We're driven by our relationship with the earth and our people, and the respect and reciprocity that goes back and forth between our people and the animal and plant relatives and the earth. And so what I was told by an elder was, people at one time used to grow 3 gardens, essentially. One for the people, one for the animals, and one for those who didn't have anything. And with that, that's a relationship that's based on reciprocity.
Hainu Smith, the executive director of the Department of Agriculture for the Ho-Chunk Nation in Wisconsin. Now they are overseeing more than 256 acres of crops, primarily cover crops, to amend the soil and control weeds, but they're also involved in vegetable production in places like Monroe and Sauk counties. She said they're also opening 9+ acres in 25 different tribal communities to help families grow their own food. Those counties include Shawano, Clark, Jackson, Sauk, and Dane counties.
Did you know soybean diseases like white mold and sudden death syndrome can survive in your soil even after rotating crops? Prevention of these diseases is a constant battle, and yield loss from an infection can be devastating. The right management plan makes all the difference. Keep your beans safe this spring with Heads Up seed treatment. Heads Up guards your seed from both white mold and SDS. Stay protected and profitable by asking your seed dealer for Heads Up. Learn more at headsupst.com.
It's time to improve your crops and your bottom line. TH Agrochemicals is an independently owned ag chemical company that has been working with growers for over 4 decades. They offer a large line of generic chemicals that can help you save money. They work with row crops and specialty crops like potatoes, apples, cranberries, and more. Call the experienced sales team for recommendations or visit TH Ag at the Corn Soy Expo, booth 402 at the Kalahari and Wisconsin Dells.
If you'd like to listen and learn more about what the Ho-Chunk Nation in Wisconsin is doing with production agriculture, pop on over to our website, MidwestFarmReport.com. This newscast sponsored by Rural Mutual Insurance, Wisconsin only and Wisconsin strong. Find your local insurance agent at ruralmutual.com. I'm Pam Yankee.
From the Capitol to your kitchen table, Madison's biggest stories live right here on 92.7 WMDX.
Mostly sunny today with a high right around 6 above this afternoon. The wind west at 5 to 15 will keep the wind chill below 0 here for most of the day. Tonight, mostly cloudy. May catch a few flurries late tonight, low of 4 above. Tomorrow, sunshine with a high of 13. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now 6 below 0.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
This is Robert Pilot, host of Native Roots Radio. On our show, we talk about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. You'll also hear from Turtle Island voices like Arvina Martin, State Representative Heather Keeler, Ruth Anna Buffalo, Dr. Anthony Stately, State Senator Mary Kunish, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Native Roots Radio, weeknights at 8 on your local Civic Media radio station.
15 seconds until we're back.
It's 7:35 right now. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. We hope that you are having a great start to your this very chilly Monday. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. Jamie, we've been telling people that they could join the conversation a lot. Have 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. You want to hit some of those texts?
Absolutely. Scott from Madison this morning saying, speaking of hypocrisy, have you noticed how MAGA is now deriding the Second Amendment or discrediting the carry permit Peretti had? And then we also have Len from Madison saying, I hope to never forget the feelings I had participating in funeral/burial detail when stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina during the summer of 1971. Thank you so much for the thoughts, gentlemen. If you want to get in on the conversation this morning, you can definitely do so. All you have to do is call or text us at 1-855-752-4842. That's 1-855-75-CIVIC. And we have Dick on the phone this morning, and Dick had some thoughts about hypocrisy and gun rights. Dick, what do you have for us this morning?
Well, just what you brought up with the text. But I'm going to tie this into that testimony last week to Jack Smith. What do you think some of these gun rights activists would have to say if, and then they had one of those congressmen had the audacity to blame the Capitol Police for not functioning properly on that day, but on the other hand said it didn't even happen. But okay, I guess what I'm going to say is, what if those Capitol Police would have just opened fire on these people with assault weapons? You know, they actually had assault weapons, not a pistol that he had every legal right to have, A. And B, from everything I've seen, he's catching his fall with one hand, clutching his phone with the other, and then gets shot in the back a half dozen times. He didn't look like a threat.
No, Dick, you're seeing what we're all seeing, and that is true. And, there seems to be a big double standard with gun rights people. But Jamie mentioned this before. The NRA has come out and said, this was beyond the pale, as you said, Jamie, and it is not what we want. It would be different, of course. And the police at January 6th, I think, had every right if they had chosen to use deadly force. They were, in fact, in fear for their lives, as we saw from the abuse that was being heaped upon them, but they did not.
John from Oshkosh also weighing in, listening on WISS this morning, saying, by MAGA definition, every one of the January 6th traitors should have also been gunned down. So thank you for those thoughts this morning, John. Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting because, we go back to a little bit of my conversation we were having about hypocrisy, and is there a line in the sand? Is there a line in the sand for the current GOP? Because the NRA is opposed to what they saw on video. Mm-hmm. There's several Republican senators and representatives now coming out and saying, no, we need a completely impartial investigation into what happened, what the ICE agents are doing, who is regulating them. Now, I guess I could say too little, too late. But at the same time, if they truly mean what they're saying, that's going to be my line in the sand. If they truly mean what they're saying, that they want it to be impartial because they actually want to make some changes and some improvements, then I'm all for it. This is a body of government that most of us, I think, will have a hard time trusting based on their previous actions. But if they truly mean it, then
they've been ineffective and checked out for the last year. They have been rubber stamping everything that comes out of this administration. Yes, you're right. It would be nice to think that, okay, there is a line in the sand, and all right, this could be it. And all right, better late than never, I guess. Yeah. But I am with you in the fact that I don't trust Congress as far as I can throw them. And they have and that is been proven. And even the Democrats this weekend who were coming out, well, we're not going to vote to fund ICE. Hey, listen, friends, if you've been paying attention, they're already funded. Yes, maybe you're not putting them in the new budget, great, but that's not going to stop them. There needs to be there needs to be an impartial investigation.
Yes.
There needs to be bipartisan cooperation to put an end to this. Again, when we talk about putting an end to it, I'm not, and I think I can safely speak for you based on what you said before. We are not saying abolish all immigration, immigration policies, no. But this cruel and violent and a movement that is not being used the way it's supposed to be and is a subterfuge for deeper things. That's what has to stop, not immigration enforcement. Why aren't, I didn't know.
The whole system needs to be overhauled. I mean, we could look at it. We could look at it from an angle of the fact that even if you don't think it goes far enough, even if you think it's too far, there's your agreement, because all of us then think that there needs to be some changes and some overhauls that need to be made to how we do this in this country. I mean, two things can be true at the same time. We don't necessarily have to agree on what we're seeing right now, but we can come to some sort of middle ground and say what's happening right now is not working. And if it's not working for one side and it's not working for the other side, then at the same point, that means it's not working in general, and we need to do something so that it is working, so that we eliminate this. And, one of the other things I was going to say, back to your point about the Democrats, it's great that in this new budget, as we're trying to avoid another partial shutdown, is that they want body cam footage, right? Always, that apparently is supposed to mean more transparency. Do you really count on this administration to ever let us see what's on that body cam
There
footage?
is always a loophole with the body cam. We forgot to turn it on. The tape was damaged. Everything. No, I don't. I never thought I'd get to the point where I distrusted everything about our government. I used to hear people say that, don't trust the government. And I was like, you are being a little over-reactionary. But no, it is, in this case, I think it is well-deserved. Frank jumps in on the text line at 855-752-4842, answering your line in the sand question. This is Len. Sorry, he says there is a line in the sand, but the blowhards in our government keep obscuring it so they can redraw the line when it suits their purposes. Hard to argue with that logic, Len. And then Frank does jump in. We cannot trust anything that comes out of this administration, foreign or domestic. It seems to be the case, and I hate it. And so back to what we started talking about here, the investigation into the shooting. First of all, this time Minnesota is saying, we don't care what you say, feds. We are handling this investigation. And
as they
should have with Renee Goods, as they should all the time. Local or federal agencies are being very quiet in this about this investigation, because listen, they had what they thought were some claims that they could make about Renee Good and this officer perhaps allegedly being run over completely, or being nicked, or being in fear for his life. Even they are not dumb enough to look at the video footage of Alex Preddy's murder and say, all right, they're trying,
right?
But this one, they don't have a lot of ground to stand on.
It also goes back to the point we were just making about transparency, though, right? And this is the GOP is the party of states' rights. So it looks really transparent, really not transparent, I should say, to be like, oh, no, as a state, we don't need you to investigate that. We don't want you to investigate that. We've always been about your rights. But in this case, just don't. Just don't. I mean, what are we doing here? This is where the hypocrisy and all of the arguments we've been making all morning come together, because honestly, if we want transparency in these cases and we want to find out what's actually happening, I feel like we are going to have to rely on our state infrastructures to be the investigating parties of these, so we actually know what the truth is at the end, based on what we're already seeing. I mean, that's the other thing, too. We can see what's happening with our own eyes. So I feel like a state investigation.
Can you really? Are you
I'm
sure?
told I can't.
We
told
both
I
wear
can't.
glasses. Maybe we're obscured. Our lenses. We need a new lens.
Line of our bifocals.
That's
what
right.
happened.
Tilt your head back. You're going to see a whole different
right.
thing. Oh, you're right. Yes. Now, oh my goodness, that's horrifying. I applaud everybody who's going out on the streets. If you cannot go out on the streets and protest for whatever reason, you can call your representatives and flood their desk, flood their answering machines with messages, and let them know that you have had enough. And listen, we all know all they want to do is keep their job. If they really believe that we have had enough and the Rubicon has been crossed, then maybe I don't care if it's self-preservation, maybe that's when they will finally do something.
I mean, you got Derek Van Orden to vote for ACA subsidies because of his fear of losing a job. So never say never, Wisconsinites.
Right, yes.
And it's interesting when we talk about this investigation from the state of Minneapolis. They've actually, if you remember back to, it feels like an eternity ago talking about this news, but they actually sued the federal government successfully and asked a judge over the weekend to ensure that federal law enforcement officials do not destroy any evidence. The Justice Department's approach to this shooting has obviously, as we talked, started drawing criticism, and even more criticism coming in this morning. Nebraska Senator Pete Ricketts is calling the shooting a horrifying situation, said he expects a prioritized, transparent investigation into the incident. Tom Tillis was really the one who raised the red flag this weekend and really started this band of Republican congresspeople being able to, I think, freely speak out. And interestingly enough, even though she's always concerned, ICE has now come to her back door because Susan Collins was also one of the first ones, of course, Senator from Maine, where ICE is now doing the no knocks and intruding into houses. She was one of the first ones to say, maybe this is too far and we should probably start looking into what's happening. She is concerned now, Brian.
Well, sure. And it's very easy, Jamie, for some people to, when it doesn't affect you at all, it was just, oh, we're coming for the worst of the worst. Okay, that's great. Everybody agrees with that. Then they came and they took some of your, maybe your neighbor or maybe the guy who runs the bakery in town, and you're like, wait a minute, I knew those people. They were okay. And then you start to get a little more concerned, and then you see two people get murdered. And a kid being used as bait. And if I had $1 for every idiot who was like, he was abandoned and he wasn't, shut up. But now, hey, guess what? They're coming for some white people too.
Yeah.
And they're coming to Maine. Yeah. And now, oh, wait a minute. Now we're going to pay attention. Yeah. Welcome to the party, pal. If I can quote Bruce Willis from Die Hard. Yeah. Which is, in this situation, really inappropriate.
Patrick from Madison chiming in quickly, and I know we've got to get to break here, over on our text line, saying the autopsy, and he's absolutely correct with this, showed Renee Good was shot first in the chest, second in the arm, and then after the agent was clear of the car, she was executed and shot in her head. Autopsy came out on that this weekend. 7:48 right now. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. We'll be joined by Susie Jones from WCCO Radio after this on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Report updates throughout the day from the Midwest Farm Report, right here on 92.7 WMDX.
Tax season is here. Ramos Tax and Services has been saving you money for over 25 years. Locally owned, open year-round. Get $20 off business and $10 off personal returns. 608-442-8170 or visit 658 South Gammon Road.
Has biennial state funding for the Wisconsin DNR dropped by $100 million over 30 years? Yes. State funding for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources has dropped over the past 3 decades, largely due to reduced debt spending. The DNR received over $330 million in state general purpose revenue in 1995, compared with about $226 million in 2025, a 32% decline. Debt service fell sharply over that period, with savings redirected to Medicaid, K-12 schools, prisons.
All right, folks, we have got Susie on the line here.
Good morning, Susie. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
How are you today?
We're all right. I'm a little tired. It's a long weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, why? What was going on?
Well, you guys know.
Yes, unfortunately we do. Unfortunately. So I appreciate Brad putting us in touch with you.
No problem.
Would you do me a favor and tell Jordana Green from me that I say hello?
I will.
I had reached out to her this weekend as well. I know her schedule is always busy. My husband and Jordana worked together for quite some time in a previous life, and then he was at WCCO TV for a while as well. So our roots go back a little ways in Minneapolis. So.
Do you want me to jump in? I'm not sure.
No, I'm sorry. We got about 40 seconds, and then we'll introduce you and.
Oh, I see. I'm so
sorry. No,
yeah,
no.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No. Oh, no.
God.
Yeah, this is the worst interview ever. This is horrible.
We
if this was, yeah, if this was.
Oh my gosh!
Who are these?
I could have been a little clearer there.
Yeah, thanks for setting that up, Parker.
That's on me.
That is on you. That is 100% on you, Parker.
It is.
No, I'm saying yes. Susie, I can only imagine what was going through your head. What did Brad get me into? Who are these yahoos? Is this real?
Well, I'm like, am I supposed to just start talking?
Yeah, just start talking. We're
we'll
Susie,
be back
start
in
talking.
20 seconds. We'll be back.
All right.
You.
Then it'll be real radio, Susie. Just.
Oh my goodness, the energy level will be up slightly.
Yeah, just a little, and we'll have some things to say. We'll actually not leave you hanging.
It's 7:52 right now. You're listening to the Civic Media Radio Network. It is Civic Media Mornings. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan, and all morning we've been paying attention to the murder of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, and now we are joined by WCCO radio anchor and reporter Susie Jones, who's going to give us a little insight on what's happening. Susie, thanks for taking time. I can only imagine how busy things are there. Any new developments since, I guess, last night? It seems like things are changing in Minneapolis by the hour.
Yeah, certainly by the hour. I would say it's been a relatively quiet night. There was a bit of a clash overnight in Dinkytown at the University of Minnesota campus. A group of students outside of a hotel there clashed with federal authorities. There was spray painting and a window broken, but other than that, that was the extent of that situation. But it's been a very long weekend, exhausting weekend. I just want to paint the picture, if you guys don't mind, that Friday, the 23rd, there were about, I would say, between 5,000 and 8,000 people, and it was below zero, maybe 10 below zero downtown Minneapolis, and they held a very peaceful march from U.S. Bank Stadium to Target Center in the bitter cold, and then they went into Target Center and had a rally. There was singing. So that was sort of the tone on Friday, that people sort of felt like unified, and that maybe praying that this would end. And then Saturday morning to wake up to this has been kind of jarring, I would say, to say the very least. Yeah. So.
And what are you getting from state officials right now? I mean, before you joined us, we were talking a little bit into how the state has decided that they are going to investigate what happened. What are you hearing from your end, Susie?
Well, right today there are 2 hearings in federal court. That one is to ask a federal court, a federal judge, to end what people are calling the occupation, but Operation Metro Surge, end it or put it on pause, to say the very least, because as you have heard it's been difficult, particularly for the immigrant community in Minneapolis, to do anything. People are staying home. Children are not going to school for fear of being detained, or in this case, shot and killed, because it's just that kind of chaotic and lawless that there's a real fear that it's been twice, 2 people have died, that if you come up against in any kind of way, you run the risk of getting killed. So the hearing today in court to pause the operation, and also another hearing, guys, to ask a federal judge to, I guess, order the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice to protect and preserve evidence. There was some question about whether evidence from Saturday morning shooting would be preserved, whether it would be destroyed, because as you know, and I'm sure most people listening have seen, there are at least a dozen and maybe more videos of the events that happened, and there's question about whether or not evidence will be preserved. And I don't know how long we have, but the Minnesota Department of Criminal Apprehension, it's an independent unit that investigates use of force incidents. They do it for years and years. Actually, the federal government has asked them to come in on their officer-involved shootings. Well, they went to the scene Saturday morning to investigate, to collect evidence, and they were turned away.
It's unfortunate, but not at all surprising. WCCO radio anchor reporter Susie Jones is our guest. Susie, for those of us who don't live in the Twin Cities, we've seen Mayor Fry, the Minneapolis mayor, on TV, very outspoken, very clear on his desire to keep residents of Minneapolis safe and for ICE to leave. So from the outside, we would think, oh, boy, everybody loves the mayor. Is that how he is being perceived by Minneapolis residents? Is he doing, in their opinion, everything he can to get this message out that we want ICE out of our city?
I think that he is doing everything he can to try to get ICE to leave the city. I think that obviously he was just reelected for a third term, so he is popular and well liked in the city. So I would claim that. I'm going to just say there's a real sense of powerlessness. I mean, Mayor Fry can say what he wants. Governor Walz can say what he wants. Attorney General Keith Ellison can say what he wants. But in the end, I feel that we're stuck. I don't think that the federal government will do anything. I even think if the court orders them to stop, they won't. No. That's my opinion. And because I think that's the sense right now that they'll do whatever they want. They'll shoot whoever they want. They'll spray whoever they want. It's really kind of raucous, I guess is a good word for it, raucous.
Yeah.
Because I just was watching video preparing this morning to talk to you guys, and there's so much video. That's the thing.
Yeah.
This isn't just hearsay.
Right.
Yeah. But,
exactly.
A bunch of federal agents driving down the street in unmarked cars, out in not in any kind of uniform, just spraying people randomly with pepper spray, and it's kind of weird. It's like, why do you gotta do that? But again, it's a sense of like, who's in charge? What is the order? Like, people around here and friends of mine keep saying, and I agree, get a list out of who you need. You got 20 guys that you say are dangerous and murderers and rapists. Okay. Give us that list. We'll help you find those 20 and leave.
Yeah.
But it can't just be this willy-nilly. Because to a person, let me just say this, every single person, no matter what political party you belong to, wants murderers and rapists and bad guys out of our city.
Right.
Yeah. No one's against that.
Yeah, that's something we all can agree on, Susie. That seems like a no-brainer. And I like. Listen, you know why your and your friend's idea won't work? Because it makes sense. That's why it will never be implemented. Susie Jones is a reporter and anchor for WCCO Radio in Minneapolis.
Yeah, no problem.
Susie, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Hopefully we can talk again. And tomorrow will be another day, Jamie.
It will be another day, and this is just an early start of the day, so we'll see what comes over the next few hours.
What fresh hell will be unleashed.
we'll be here and we'll do it all again. That we can promise you. 7:59 right now. You're listening to Civic Media Mornings. I'm Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Have a great day. Thank you for listening and being part of the program. Enjoy the rest of your day. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.